Chapter 33. The Empire Strikes First. Who controls the past now, controls the future now. Who controls the present now, controls the past. George Orwell, 1984. History has constantly been manipulated and whitewashed by the victors and winners of wars. The losers have always been condemned and made out to be demonic. All empires are violent, and empires know that it's better to strike first than to strike back, as in the George Lucas Star Wars movies. Although America was supportive of the German Nazis prior to World War II, the war was won by America. Thus, America's Nazi support has officially disappeared from history, along with many eugenics organizations that sterilize poor people, black people, and mentally challenged people, and were on the same thought pattern as the German Nazis, who proposed the final solution of killing all the undesirables in their tribe. Cleaning up the history books is a way to strike first as a victorious empire and avoid having to strike back later. America committed genocide with the American Indians, and it's romanticized by Hollywood as cowboys and Indians, instead of the reality that it was mass murder and robbery of the people who lived here before us. Nazi Germany attempted genocide with several groups in Europe, namely the Jews. But Germany lost the war, so they are immortalized as demons in the history books. America got to repaint over its demons with a whitewash paintbrush, as they whitewashed the charred White House after the British invaded America and set fire to the presidential house in the brief War of 1812. Why strike back when you can strike first? America has a history steeped in racism. Americans enslaved several groups of people, including the blacks and the Irish. The U.S. has a violent and brutal history of conquest, world domination through financing puppet dictators of the Third World, eugenics movements, much like the Nazis, concentration camps like Guantanamo Bay in Cuba, and atrocities by association, like an alliance with Joseph Stalin, the butcher who killed more than 20 million of his own people during his brutal communist regime. Stalin killed more people than the demonized Nazis ever did with their calculated mass killings, but we whitewash communism and Stalin in the universities. After all, Stalin was our ally, and communism is the reigning philosophy of the schools and universities in America. This is part of the problem with the subversion of what made America great in the first place: a commitment to freedom, free markets, capitalism, freedom of religion, Protestant work ethic, and Judeo-Christian values. America has a racist and militant history, but today, with the zeitgeist of Donald Trump, the past actions and policies of America become invisible to the popular public, and Trump is thrown into the fray as a scapegoat for current policies that are congruent with past policies. Trump doesn't want to let Muslim refugees into the country. The U.S. is unofficially at war with Islam, and Islam is officially in a holy war with the West. In World War II, America accepted no German refugees, and the Empire Strikes First, 475 no Jewish refugees, even though people were being rounded up and taken to ghettos or gas chambers. Trump recently barred refugees and people from 7 Islamic nations that the USA is illegally bombing according to war laws. Instead of supporting this policy, the people decried this very normal American policy as racist. America is a historically racist and intolerant country, but with the weakness prevalent in today's society, Americans call one man, Donald Trump, a martyr, the one and only racist. I do not believe Trump as a man is fundamentally racist, sexist, homophobic, or Islamophobic as the popular media claims him to be. I think he is a good man, not a nice man, but a strong man looking after his family and his tribe and trying to do what he believes to be the right thing. This is just the same as Darth Vader in Star Wars, Episode 3 trying to do the right thing by saving his wife Padme from death. The road to hell is paved with good intentions. When Darth Vader tries to save his fated-to-die wife from death itself, he converts to the dark side. He kills the young Jedi, dismantles the Jedi Order, and loses his legs and one of his arms as well as his skin, his appearance, and the man he used to be in order to do the right thing and save his wife. Darth Vader is the villain, just a strong man who tried to do the right thing, but he brought hell upon himself by trying to be good and just. Donald Trump is our Darth Vader. He runs the empire and bombs those teenagers in the deserts of Iraq and Syria instead of Tatooine and Alderaan. He is a villain to the rebels, the women, the youth, the have-nots, and the weak. But in his heart, he is trying to do what is right for his tribe, his family, and his people. Ironically, the word Vader is Dutch for father. We live in a society where dad is bad, fathers are mean, and are pushed to the fringes of society in favor of mom and empowered women. Trump is the elected official leader of a violent empire that is traditionally racist, sexist, homophobe, intolerant, and Islamophobic. Thus, he has to carry the weight of America's past sins. In the same way that Jesus had to bear the weight of the cross and the sins of all his people before being brutally crucified at the hands of the bloodthirsty and barbaric Romans. Perhaps Trump is being figuratively, or perhaps literally at some point, nailed to a cross to die for the sins of his people. I don't think it is right, but it doesn't matter what is right or fair. It simply is. The people are a mob, and they have a vicious and violent mind of their own. What will the future of the mob and the empire who strikes first look like if the current trends continue? In the 19th century, two famous futurist writers gave us two versions of what they believed the future of the West would look like. George Orwell and his mentor, Aldous Huxley, wrote two very different versions of what the future would look like, although they were both dystopias. George Orwell predicted that we would enter a Stalinist future in 1984, where men are isolated, there is no family or love, and the government has thrown the people into perpetual war. The government spies on the people through technology, fear-mongering, media control, revisionist history, the dumbing down of language and change of language, doublespeak, doublethink, and never-ending war with three world superpowers to keep the current government in power through martial law. In this dystopia, man is left alone to survive in the abyss of the technocracy. In some ways, the protagonist faces the question, what does it mean to be a man? As he is alone in the abyss and darkness of the world that Orwell created in 1984. All things that made a man, women, family, children, his work, his duty, money, privacy, and freedom, have been stripped from him. He is alone, he is isolated, and he is weak. In 1984, through manipulation of words, media, and beliefs into twisted lies upon lies and versions of reality that serve the government agenda for control, we believe the lie until it becomes the truth. This book and narrative was extrapolated by Stalinist policies in which the government would become totalitarian and all-powerful and oppress the people. 1984 was written in 1949, and some would argue that we are living in the world of 1984 in modern America. I could see why. The famous words of George Orwell predicted the future we live in today. The people will not revolt. They will not look up from their screens long enough to notice what's happening. Orwell didn't have a crystal ball. What he did have was an understanding of the human condition and its weakness, apathy. Rachel Habib Orwell's mentor, Aldous Huxley, painted a different picture, a more American, less Stalinist picture in his book. Brave New World is Huxley's 1932 dystopian novel. In this American-style future, man has no pain, and he is not even born by female vaginal birth anymore. There are 5 castes of humans, from the tall, blonde, beautiful alphas all the way down to the mentally retarded, short, ugly, and barely functioning epsilons who can hardly function in the most meaningless tasks. Everything in society is planned, childbirth is obsolete, and babies are pre-selected to be alphas, betas, gammas, etc. The lower classes are mentally retarded with alcohol to dumb them down to the lower levels and jobs of society. The society in Brave New World was admittedly a bonobo society with sex orgies rampantly taking place. Women have contraception, so there are no accidental vaginally born babies. Every need, every single thing is taken care of. There is no pain, just drugs called soma, which is the favorite way to entertain yourself or friends. Getting high on soma, participating in orgies, a painless life of all pleasure and no pain, again brings man to the question, what does it mean to be a man? When John the Savage is brought into the sleek dystopian world of all pleasure and no pain, he goes mad and flogs himself just to feel pain and be alive again. John the Savage has no place in his Brave New World, so he hangs himself once he realizes he no longer belongs. On some predictions, Orwell was right. In 2018, 1984 has climbed back up the charts of best-selling books and has become shockingly relevant to the world in which we live today. In other predictions, Huxley was right about our drug-induced sex culture, bonobo-like masturbation, and the meaninglessness of sex. Childbirth may become obsolete soon when we look at the way families and women no longer need men for their basic functions. Where do men fit in with the future of the empire? It's hard to say. In Orwell's future, men are oppressed, isolated, monitored, and put into Stalinist cages, alone and obsolete. In Huxley's future, men are high, sex-addicted, and not need for work in the way that they traditionally have been. Surely, in both futures, there are men required to be on the front lines of the endless war, to do the killing and the bombing, and to be the stormtroopers for Darth Vader. But in either future, the average man of the empire at home, the solo man, is like a rat trapped in a cage. He is denied what makes him a man. In our current form of reality, we see both traits of 1984 and Brave New World manifesting as reality. Man is neutered, like a house pet, caged, and sedated into a role he has never known before. He was once the base unit of the empire, the nucleus of the family, and the building block of a strong society. The empire has grown so big and so efficient that it no longer needs him to be strong or to do what he once did. How long can this empire last?